Turns out ants invented genetic cheating long before humans invented cheating on exams. Some ants don't just work hard, they literally farm another species to make better workers. Iberian harvester ants, Mesor ibericus, pull off a bizarre trick. Their queens can lay eggs that contain only the DNA of another ant species, Mesor structor. They then mate with those ants to crank out hybrid workers tougher than either species alone. Translation: one species has straight-up domesticated another's genome, like Pokemon breeding but in real life. Scientists are calling it one of the wildest cases of evolutionary outsourcing ever recorded. Think sushi belt. But with atoms feeding a quantum computer, building a giant quantum computer has one big headache. Atoms keep vanishing mid-calculation. Now researchers have a sci-fi fix, an atomic conveyor belt. Inside a high vacuum chamber, they line up rubidium atoms in perfect rows and hold a spare set in a backup array below. Using laser beams called optical tweezers, they scoop fresh atoms from the lower layer and slide them upward whenever the main array loses one. That means quantum circuits can stay stable far longer, bringing large-scale quantum computing a serious step closer.
He didn't just dig up fossils, he changed how we see every bird outside your window. Mark Norell, a legendary paleontologist at the American Museum of Natural History, spent his career showing us that dinosaurs never really went extinct. They just evolved into birds. His work uncovered the first evidence of bird-like brooding behavior in dinosaurs and helped describe stunning feathered fossils like Caudipteryx. Thanks to him, every pigeon, hawk, and chicken is now recognized as a living dinosaur. Beyond the science, colleagues say Norell was generous, curious, and endlessly supportive of young researchers. He's passed away at 68, but his discoveries keep walking, flying, and singing among us.
When cloning your champion horse isn't extra enough, scientists just had to hit it with the CRISPR edit. Meet the first CRISPR-edited horses. Clones of a polo champ, but turbocharged with a genetic tweak to the myostatin gene, basically the muscle growth dial. The goal? Faster, stronger, better ponies on the field. Traditionalists are already fuming, with some polo authorities banning gene-edited animals altogether. But outside the sport, CRISPR cattle, sheep, and pigs are sliding into agriculture like it's no big deal. Whether it's the future of performance or a biotech overstep, one thing's clear: the horse game just leveled up.
Turns out our planet's breath is giving the moon a slow-motion makeover. Every month, for about 5 days, a strange Earth wind blasts across 384,000 kilometers of space and hits the moon. This gust isn't air, but a stream of charged particles. Hydrogen, nitrogen, and, most importantly, oxygen, escaping Earth's magnetic field. Scientists just proved that when those oxygen ions slam into iron-rich lunar minerals, they create hematite, a reddish compound better known as rust. This means that the moon is literally rusting because of us. Our air is painting the lunar surface red, one charged particle at a time.
Spoiler: you can't just bury climate change in the backyard and hope it disappears. Scientists say the world's underground carbon closet isn't nearly as big as we thought. A new study warns that by the year 2200, we could actually run out of geologic space to stash our CO2. And here's the kicker: the countries with the most underground storage places like Indonesia, Brazil, and parts of Africa are the least responsible for pumping out carbon in the first place. Meanwhile, the US, Canada, and Russia have both the space and the money to deal with it, but, you guessed it, keep dragging their feet. Researchers say the real fix isn't hiding the problem underground. It's cutting fossil fuels now before the planet cooks.
Imagine a brain cell squad that keeps your pain stuck on replay. Yeah, they just found it. Researchers just discovered a tiny cluster of brain cells that might be behind chronic pain, at least in mice. These neurons live in the parabrachial nucleus, and when the animals felt pain, the cells fired up and stayed on long after the pain should have ended. When scientists blocked those neurons, the mice's lingering pain disappeared, but normal, short-term pain signals still worked fine. If humans have a similar setup, this could be a game changer, not numbing pain entirely, but turning off the part that refuses to shut up. Imagine a cancer so greedy, the best move is to take away its snacks. Glioblastoma, One of the deadliest brain tumors out there grows fast because it hijacks nutrients from the body like a thief at an all-you-can-eat buffet. But scientists just found its weak spot: food deprivation. In mouse experiments, when researchers cut out serine, a key amino acid the tumor depends on, the cancer slowed down, and the animals actually lived longer. It's not a cure, but it's proof that even the most ruthless cancers have an Achilles heel, and sometimes it's just dinner.
Scientists thought they found an ear. Turns out it's a fungus factory. Nature, you weird genius. So, here's a wild one. Scientists were studying Japanese dinodorid stink bugs and thought the females had tiny eardrums on their legs. But surprise, it wasn't for hearing at all. Inside that so-called ear, researchers found a brand new symbiotic organ that grows fungi. The bugs actually smear these fungi over their freshly laid eggs like a protective blanket. Why? To guard the babies from parasitic wasps that try to inject their own larvae inside. Basically, these stink bugs run a built-in fungal defense lab. Proof that evolution doesn't just get weird, it gets creative.
Turns out your belly fat might be running a secret lab that speeds up aging. Scientists just found a brand new immune cell hiding in fat tissue, and it might explain why our bodies get more inflamed as we age. In mice, these cells pop up in the fat around internal organs and pump out inflammatory molecules like a slow burn. Normally, other immune cells keep them in check, but as animals, especially females, get older, those defenders disappear. The result? Chronic inflammation, also known as inflammaging. It's the hidden fire that could be fueling everything from frailty to age-related disease.
Who knew saving the world might start with a tougher broccoli plant? Broccoli is a nutrient powerhouse loaded with vitamins, minerals, folate, and bioactive compounds that fight disease. But in hotter regions, this veggie hero struggles to grow, leaving millions without its benefits. Plant scientists Melanie Cabrera and Carlos Messina have a plan: breed heat-tolerant broccoli that thrives in warm climates. That means more local harvests, less dependence on carbon-heavy supply chains, and a shot of serious nutrition where it's needed most. A small green floret could help tackle a giant global health challenge.
Scientists are literally growing egg and sperm cells in labs. The future of fertility just got wild. A new revolution in fertility science is brewing, and it's called in vitro gametogenesis, or EVG. Imagine creating egg and sperm cells entirely in a lab. Researchers say IVG could transform medicine, letting scientists test how drugs affect fertility, study genetic disorders, and even help people with infertility. But we're still about 15 years away from real-world use. The catch? The same tech could also make genetically modified babies possible. That's why experts are calling for strict regulations now before lab-grown gametes go from science fiction to reality.
No humans, no problem. AI just hosted its own academic conference. What could possibly go wrong? Next week, computer science is making history and maybe chaos with the launch of Agents for Science, the first ever scientific conference where every paper and every review was written entirely by AI. No human authors, no human reviewers. Just machines critiquing machines. Co-organizer James Zhu calls it a safe sandbox to test new ways of doing research, and ethics expert Margaret Mitchell says it's a wake-up call that the AI world needs to understand its own limits. It's a bold experiment, part science fair, part mirror held up to the future of knowledge itself.
Turns out the real problem isn't the tech, T's trust. Across Africa, scientists are sitting on mountains of health data, but they're not sharing it. And honestly, who can blame them? For decades, biomedical info from the continent has been exploited, misused, and shipped overseas without fair return. Now, African researchers argue the answer isn't just more funding or flashy platforms. It's a social contract. Think of it as a promise: data sharing done with equity, transparency, and actual benefit for the communities providing that data. Without that trust, the hoarding continues.
Forget chatbots. AI's next move is running experiments while you nap. AI tools already help scientists write code and papers, but the next big leap is AI agents, autonomous bots that don't just answer questions, they do stuff. These upgraded language models can chain tasks together, run code, analyze data, and someday even design and execute experiments on their own. Right now, they're powerful, but limited still need a human supervisor and sometimes go off script. But researchers say once they're refined, these tireless assistants could supercharge discovery, turning the lab of the future into a 24/7 AI-human collab zone. AI isn't just writing essays anymore, it's out here inventing bacteria hunters. Researchers just weaponized AI to fight one of medicine's nastiest foes, antibiotic-resistant E. coli. Starting with the DNA of a simple bacteriophage called Phi-X174, an algorithm generated hundreds of new viral blueprints. Scientists built 302 of them, and 16 turned out to be lethal to E. coli strains the original virus couldn't touch. Even better, mixing these custom phages wiped out 3 different superbug strains. It's like hiring a digital designer to craft microscopic assassins, and it might be the next big move in the war against antibiotic resistance.
This beast does a quintillion calculations per second, and it's eco-friendly. Europe just leveled up. Meet Jupiter, Europe's first exascale supercomputer. It just hit a crazy milestone: 1 quintillion operations per second. That's like giving every human on Earth a calculator and having them all crunch numbers non-stop for years. But here's the flex. Jupiter runs entirely on renewable energy. Not only is it the 4th fastest computer in the world, it's also the most energy efficient. This green giant will power breakthroughs in weather prediction, space science, medicine, and even the AI race. Europe didn't just build a computer, they built the future.
Apparently, our ancestors' chewing habits just spilled their entire craft history, DNA receipts and all. Scientists just cracked a Stone Age mystery using ancient chewing gum. They analyzed wads of birch bark tar, a sticky substance used as ancient glue that still had human bite marks on it. From 30 samples found across Scandinavia, researchers extracted DNA traces of plants, animals, and even the people who chewed them. Turns out, men and women both used this gum, but for different jobs. Men's tar was linked to toolmaking, while women's was used for pottery repairs. The gum also revealed oral microbes and traces of food like wheat and wild boar. So yeah, 10,000-year-old gum just became a time capsule of prehistoric life.
Turns out, fighting for clean air and water isn't just tree hugging, it's civil rights in action. Meet Charles Lee, a giant in the environmental justice movement. After 26 years at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, he's stepping down, but not stepping away. Lee has spent his career proving that environmental justice isn't just about pollution, it's about civil rights, equity, and people power. Even under political pressure, Lee insists, this fight doesn't depend on executive orders or government backing. It's driven by communities themselves. His legacy? A reminder that environmental justice is not a luxury, it's a human right.
The planetary health diet is back, and apparently, your salad can now save the planet and $5 trillion. The planetary health diet just got an upgrade, and it's not just about kale smoothies. First introduced 6 years ago to fix both global health and the environment, it's now been refined to include local cultures and food access. The idea: eat mostly whole grains, fruits, veggies, nuts, and legumes, with smaller portions of fish, dairy, and meat. Researchers say this shift could prevent 40,000 early deaths every single day and save the world about $5 trillion in food-related health and environmental costs. So yeah, plant power might actually save lives and the planet. Ebola's deadliest strain is back, and the clock is ticking. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is facing a new Ebola outbreak. 47 confirmed cases and 25 deaths since early September. Scientists say it likely started from an animal spillover, and testing confirms it's the Zaire Ebola virus, the most dangerous strain. The good news? We now have approved vaccines and drugs that can stop it in its tracks, but only if they're deployed fast. Researchers are urging a swift response to keep the virus confined to the 4 remote regions where it's currently contained.
Imagine typing a search bar, but instead of cat memes, it finds genetic codes from across life on Earth. Scientists just built what's basically Google for DNA. It's called Metagraph, and it can search through mind-melting amounts of biological data, 18.8 million DNA and RNA sequence sets, and 210 billion protein sequences, all from public databases. You can literally type a text prompt, and it'll dig through the world's genetic library to find patterns, even ones never labeled before. From viruses to whales, Metagraph is the ultimate search engine for life itself. The internet indexed our words, and now we're indexing existence.
The cash is finally flowing again, but it's more like a leaky faucet than a fire hose. Harvard just won a big legal battle to get its frozen U.S. research grants restored millions from the National Science Foundation, and niche are supposed to be on the way. But scientists on campus say the victory feels half-baked. Funds are trickling in unevenly, projects are still on pause, and the damage from months without money has already been done. In a joint update to the judge, both Harvard and the U.S. government admitted they need more time to work through implementation issues. Translation: the court said pay up, but the pipeline is still clogged.
Spoiler: science awards are multiplying, but the Nobel is still the Beyoncé of prizes. The Nobel Prize is still science's ultimate flex. But is it really the best? Lately, rival prizes have been popping up everywhere, covering fields the Nobels skip, like technology and climate science, and sometimes handing out even bigger checks. Astrophysicist Sarah Seeger, who just snagged the 2024 Kavli Prize, admits they're gaining traction. But the Nobel still sits in a league of its own. And here's the kicker: none of these prizes fix the Nobel's flaws. They still lean too heavily on individuals instead of teams, and women remain underrepresented. So, while the prize pool is growing, the crown still belongs to Stockholm.
Imagine getting $800,000 just for being too good at thinking. Yeah, that's the vibe. This year's MacArthur Genius grants just dropped 22 creative powerhouses, each getting $800,000. No strings attached. Among them, a political scientist, an atmospheric scientist, and an astrophysicist pushing the limits of their fields. One standout moment came from epidemiologist Nabarun Dasgupta, who studies the U.S. overdose crisis. He got the call right after losing a longtime collaborator to that very epidemic. It couldn't have been a clearer sign that the work has to go on, he said. Proof that genius isn't just brilliance, it's heart, resilience, and purpose.
Science finally realized 2D cells in lab mice aren't enough to figure out how ovaries and placentas really work. For decades, women's reproductive health research has been held back by two big problems: weak funding and bad models. Lab mice and flat cell cultures just can't mimic the complexity of human organs. Enter organoids. Tiny 3D clusters of human cells grown to behave like real tissue. Scientists are now making mini placentas, mini ovaries, even mini vaginas to watch how these organs function and what goes wrong in disease. These mini organs could finally answer long-ignored questions about fertility, pregnancy complications, and reproductive disorders, bringing women's health research into a new era.
Scientists basically said, what if we just max out the periodic table on a piece of paper? And somehow it worked. Imagine cramming 9 different metals into something thinner than a single strand of DNA. Yeah, chemists just pulled it off. They've built the most complex version yet of a MXene, a 2D material that's like graphene's chaotic cousin. MXenes are famous for their insane electrical conductivity and weird properties that scientists think could power next-gen batteries, ultra-fast electronics, or even futuristic sensors. By layering 9 metals together in a single atomic sheet, researchers have officially opened a new playground for designing materials humanity has literally never seen before. Basically, the science of flat things just got weird. Trump said, "Don't take Tylenol," but science is basically saying, that's not how evidence works. U.S. President Donald Trump just told Americans to avoid Tylenol, claiming a possible link to autism after the FDA announced a new warning label for the common painkiller. But scientists are calling foul. Clinical experts stress there's no causal evidence connecting acetaminophen to autism or vaccines for that matter. And with few safe alternatives for treating pain and fever during pregnancy, researchers warn that fear-based advice could put pregnant women and their babies at risk. In short, the science says Tylenol is still safe when used as directed. From Earth, we're literally listening to the universe tear itself apart. 10 years ago, LIGO made history by catching ripples in space-time, gravitational waves from two black holes colliding over 1 billion years ago. Think of it as the universe sending out shockwaves we can finally hear. Since then, LIGO has turned into a discovery machine, picking up cosmic events we never imagined. And the next step? The Einstein telescope in Europe, a detector so sensitive it could hear gravitational waves from anywhere in the observable universe. Basically, we're building cosmic eavesdroppers that let us listen to space like never before.
Turns out octopuses are kind of picky with their arms. Front arms are explorers and back arms are movers. No lefty or righty bias, though. Octopuses might look like chaos with 8 arms flailing, but researchers just revealed they actually play favorites. In a study of nearly 4,000 movements across wild octopuses, scientists noticed a pattern. The front arms are mostly used for exploring and grabbing, while the back arms do the heavy lifting for swimming and moving around. Each arm can do everything. But apparently, even octopuses like to delegate. And no, they're not left or right-handed like us. These sea geniuses are all about strategy, not sides. Imagine quitting meds for good, and your disease just stays gone. Psoriasis isn't just red, itchy patches. It's linked to heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, gas, and mental health struggles. Antibody-based drugs have been life-changing by targeting the inflammation at its core, but doctors always said, once you start, it's for life. Here's the twist. Some patients who stopped treatment never relapsed. Now, major clinical trials are digging into why. One dermatologist admitted he once thought a cure was impossible in his lifetime. Today, he's confident we could see it within the next decade.
Imagine turning a Senate hearing into a Facebook comment section that's pretty much what just happened. The U.S. Senate just hosted what felt like a reality TV episode. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., now Health Secretary, was grilled over his chaotic shakeup of the CDC and his moves to cancel mRNA research. Things got so heated it literally turned into a shouting match. Kennedy doubled down, accusing scientists and Big Pharma of collusion while waving chronic disease stats like a flag. But here's the kicker. 9 former CDC directors, spanning both parties and going back to 1977, just co-signed an op-ed warning that his leadership could dismantle decades of public health progress. Translation? This isn't just messy politics, it's science itself under fire.
Imagine doing world-saving research and then your funding just vanishes mid-project. Yeah, that's the vibe. The U.S. government shutdown has hit science hard. We're now in week 3, and research across the country is grinding to a halt. The Trump administration has pulled funding from clean energy projects, laid off 1,300 CDC workers, though 700 got a last-minute reversal, and paused grant reviews at major agencies like the National Science Foundation. Some federally funded labs and museums have shut their doors entirely. One scientist summed it up perfectly. It feels like getting hit by a car right after surviving a train wreck. Science isn't just stalled, it's bleeding.
It was supposed to clarify vaccine policy. Instead, it was like a group chat with no admin. An influential U.S. vaccine advisory panel, recently reassembled by Health Secretary and longtime anti-vaccine activist Robert F. Kennedy Jr., just wrapped a meeting that created more confusion than guidance. The group refused to formally recommend COVID-19 shots, but left a loophole for government programs and private insurers to keep covering them. It also punted on whether newborns should get the hepatitis B vaccine and even reversed a decision made the day before to provide free measles, mumps, rubella, varicella vaccines for kids under 4. Bottom line, parents, doctors, and public health officials are leaving with more questions than answers. The immune system's peacekeepers just got a Nobel. Now everyone's asking if they can actually cure disease. Meet the latest Nobel Prize winners, Mary Brunkow, Fred Ramsdell, and Shimon Sakaguchi, the trio who discovered regulatory T cells, or TREGs. These immune cells are like the body's internal diplomats, stopping your immune system from accidentally attacking itself. Decades after their discovery, TREGs are now the focus of more than 200 clinical trials, targeting type 1 diabetes, motor neuron disease, and other autoimmune disorders. The challenge? They're rare and fragile, tough to scale for treatments, but scientists are confident that TREG-based therapies could start hitting clinics within just a few years. So it's not just killing your lungs. The air is coming for your brain too. A massive study of 56 million people just linked dirty air to dementia. Specifically long-term exposure to PM 2.5, microscopic particles so small you can't see them, seems to speed up the development of Lewy body dementia, which includes Parkinson's with dementia. The kicker? Pollution doesn't necessarily cause the disease, but it's like hitting fast forward on people already genetically at risk. In other words, your city smog could be accelerating brain decline.
This is KokoChem. Subscribe for more science updates. Thank you for watching.